Good afternoon and welcome to the John DeVito Show. I hope you're doing well. And again, I know that some of you may be waiting for me to come back and do my live shows, but I'm having a big technology issue, and I think I figured out what it was. I had a computer that I was using with my Rodecaster Pro soundboard last year when I was doing lives. My daughter took that to college with her because she needed a new computer, and I'm trying to use my company computer for my podcast. And I think, unfortunately, they are blocking the microphone on my podcast, so I can't get any sound. So I think I may have to go out and buy another computer in order to do live shows with my soundboard so I have better sound quality. So for those of you that are tuning in, excuse me, and you are listening to my podcast, I apologize for the poor sound quality. I promise you that if you've listened to some of my other shows in the past, you'll hear I have a much better sound quality. And I'm going to start hopefully broadcasting from my Rodecaster Pro soundboard and microphone very soon. So I may have to buy a new computer though. Not something I really want to do, but I want to get back on and have better quality for all of you that tune into my show. So I want to thank all of you. I've had a really nice return to doing my podcast. The numbers have been really good. I'm getting a lot of downloads, a lot of listeners, and I've got to tell you, I wish I could individually speak to each and every one of you and shake hands with each and every one of you because I really appreciate all of you taking the time to tune in. And, I may have found a sweet spot here where I'm recording quick 20-minute podcasts, and those, are not an hour long and they're easy for people to listen to, and it doesn't take as much time. So today's topic, and this is going to be a little bit more for the men, but I'm also going to talk about the women as well. Now, one thing that I am really tired of hearing in society is about toxic masculinity. All right. I know, guys, that if you're out there and you're listening to me, you agree. And I know some of the ladies probably agree as well that when the left continues to brand real men as toxic or toxic masculinity, they are really off the mark. They don't understand what they're doing and they're really wrong. And let me explain why. Now, when the left says that masculinity is toxic, they are confusing masculinity for insecure men who might be abusive. There's a big difference between the two. Now, a masculine man, and I consider myself to be a masculine man. I played college football. I'm a big guy. Been married for 22 years. I believe in my marriage very much. I love my wife, and I would never, ever physically do anything to any woman that I never have in my life. So I know that the masculine men out there understand this and they agree. A real man, a masculine man, is not emotionally abusive. A real man, a masculine man, is not someone that gaslights his wife. A real man, a masculine man, does not intimidate or physically abuse their wife or any woman out there. That is not what masculine men do. Real men who believe in themselves and are confident in themselves do not need to put down their partners or their significant others in order to maintain control because these real masculine men don't need control. We know that if we treat our significant other correctly, then that person is going to be comfortable and feel happy, and that person is going to be able to grow on their own. Now, in my marriage, I have a very successful wife. She makes more money than I do. That's okay. I don't mind that. That does not threaten my masculinity. That does not make me feel I am less of a man because my wife makes more money than I do. That doesn't threaten me. And a real man, a masculine man, is not intimidated by a woman who is intelligent, a woman that works hard, a woman that has goals in her life. It's okay here in 2023, like it should have always been, to allow women, not allow, but to support women in pursuing their goals, pursuing their education, pursuing their dreams. And there is nothing wrong with that. The men who are trying to control their wives, the men who may be emotionally abusive to their wives, the men who are physically abusive to their wives. It doesn't have to be just your wife. It could be a girlfriend. It could be a sibling. It could be a friend. It could be anybody. But the men that abuse are not the definition of masculinity. They are cowards, they are abusers, and they are insecure men that don't believe enough in themselves to treat the women in their lives the right way. So that's what I'm here to say. I'm tired of hearing the constant attack on masculinity. Masculinity is not toxic. Masculinity is beautiful. The world, just like we need amazing women, we need amazing men. We need men that don't run away from their family obligations. We need men that stand up and they make the hard choices and they decide to be fathers and they decide to be good husbands and they decide to be moral guides for the younger people in their lives. And I'm going to say, while I am in a good place now, I'm 55 years old. I haven't always been the perfect role model. It's a journey for all of us. But I do believe that the more you work on yourself and the more you trust in God, the more you will start to, I think, act the right way in your life. And it doesn't automatically come. You have to work on yourself as a person constantly. I've been a parent now for almost 21 years. My oldest son's going to be 21 next month. I've got an 18-year-old, a 17-year-old, and then a 14-year-old. And have I made the wrong choices in my life? Have I said or done the wrong things at times in my life? Yes. For a period of time, I was not going to church on a regular basis. I was away from the church and away from religion for about 10 years. Thankfully, about a year and 3 months ago, I went back to church. I went back to God, and it's been the best thing in my life. And I do feel now that I'm on a path of doing the right thing for myself. But on top of that, it's not just for myself. If I'm doing the right things as a father, then my wife sees these things that I'm doing and she feels good. And she knows that the things that she's doing, I'm also receiving and I'm understanding and I'm appreciating her. Also, if I'm being a real man, then I am guiding my children in the right way. It's really easy to go out and get drunk every weekend. It's really easy to go out and do drugs. It's really easy to party it up all the time and not pay attention to your children. But really, the hard thing to do is to be, a grown up man, a role model that goes to church, that volunteers for the community, that does good things for other people, that doesn't spend his weekend or waste his weekend drinking incessantly or doing drugs incessantly. These are things that real men don't do. Masculine men don't do that. The guys that are out getting drunk every weekend, doing drugs all the time, aren't going to work, aren't studying and doing their their job to get an education so they can better their lives, better themselves, and better their family. They're not doing the right thing. So I think as a country, we really need to start redefining what masculinity is. Now, I said, ladies, if you're there, I was going to talk to you as well. Now, for me, I think the whole idea of the way women are expected to be portrayed is sometimes very wrong as well. Now, bear with me, ladies. I'm not a woman, so I can't speak eloquently on everything that is important to a woman because I'm not a woman. But what I see from a man's perspective is women are expected to do everything well. Women are expected to be, the good student. They're expected to be the beautiful woman. They're expected to be the great mother, the great employee, the great whatever it may be. And there's a lot of pressure on women to look a certain way, to wear the right clothes, to act the right way. I mean, some women who are very intelligent feel like they need to dumb themselves down for maybe a man that is threatened by their intelligence or by their success. I think that is absolutely ridiculous. For me, nothing is more beautiful than a woman that is, physically attractive is nice. I mean, it's important for people to have chemistry and to have a physical attraction to each other. But I think also it's extremely important to have a woman that is passionate about her life, that is intelligent, that has things that she wants to do to improve the world, and maybe, not maybe, but is also a person that follows God and has a set of morals where she lives her life by a certain way. So for me, there's a whole lot of misrepresenting in the world right now. And one of the things that I really hate to see is I see the way Hollywood portrays women. They have to be half naked all the time, exposing themselves. Back when I was younger, I'm 55 years old now, there was a certain part of mystery to a woman where she didn't have to show it all in her clothes to show how beautiful she is. Now, I don't blame this on the younger girls. The younger girls in society today, they see this in the media, they see this in the movies, they see it on YouTube, TikTok. Women are getting 10 million followers just by shaking their backsides half naked, and they're making money from it. So I understand why the younger population of women feel the need to get attention by showing off their bodies. And for me, if that's something you want to do and something you feel that's important to you and you enjoy doing it, that's great. But I also think that there shouldn't be pressure for young women to do these type of things, because it seems like there's a lot of pressure in the world today for young women to look the same way, but then be everything. They have to be athletes. They have to be students. They have to be, lovers. They have to be all these different things. And what we see also today in the world, which actually drives me crazy now, I have absolutely no problem with a person's sexual preference. I have no problem whatsoever. Whatever consider yourself to be, whether you're straight, whether you're a member of the LGBTQ plus community, it doesn't matter to me. I mean, when I was younger, we had people of different persuasions back then as well, but we didn't broadcast it everywhere. It wasn't on our Facebook page. We didn't have Facebook pages, but it wasn't on those type of things. Whatever you did at home with your loved one was between you and your loved one. It wasn't something you had to broadcast to the world, right? So today, I think there's way too much stuff out there. But then you have the pressure of, if you look at women now who are competing in sports, they're having to compete against men who have transitioned over to being women. And again, I can't begin to understand what it's like to have that calling. It must be very, very difficult to be someone that has to transition who they are to another sex or whatever it may be. And I don't have any problem with that. If that's who you are, that's who you are. But I think in sports, when you look at men who have transitioned over to women, I mean, if you think of someone like Bruce Jenner, who I loved as an athlete, and I really actually like Caitlyn Jenner. She's politically aligned to where I am. I like a lot of the things that she says. But could you imagine if Bruce Jenner, who is one of the greatest Olympians in the history of the Olympics, was able to compete against women? I mean, it just wouldn't have been fair. And it's not to say women aren't amazing athletes. They are. I mean, I look at, I was at a high school girls soccer game this past week, watching one of my friend's daughters play. And I mean, watching the talent of these girls, I mean, they're amazing athletes. And I'll tell you, I wouldn't be able to hold a candle to any of them at this point in my life. But when you look at men and how they're built compared to women, biological men are bigger, they're stronger, and they're in general faster. So if you look at equally trained athletes of men and women, it's just because men are built differently. It doesn't mean that women are any less amazing than men are. I mean, women are, to me, are the most amazing, powerful creatures on this planet. And I considered myself to be a pretty tough person. But women are tough, man. They can give birth. They don't give up. They dig their heels in. I think some men make the mistake of looking at a woman and seeing her crying and thinking that's weakness. I always look at that as being a woman crying is just weakness leaving the body. And if she's angry, you better look out, because she's going to be coming back at you with guns blazing after she's done crying. So, men, women, I've been talking about in some of my other shows the division we have in this world right now. The liberal left wants to divide all of us. They have us fighting men versus women, black versus white. They have Democrats versus Republicans. And like I've said in some of my other shows, is if you look at Sun Tzu, the great Chinese general who wrote The Art of War back hundreds and hundreds of years ago, one of the main pillars of the art of war is divide and conquer. So if a general wants to beat an enemy or destroy an enemy, the first thing they do is divide the enemy. And if you look at what's happening in the United States of America right now, our politicians are dividing us. Our mainstream media is dividing us. And as Americans, we need to be smarter than this. We can't allow the mainstream media, which is basically the propaganda tool of the wealthy, to continue to divide and conquer us. So, black people, white people, we need to unite. We have a lot in common. I am a white 55-year-old man. I love you all. You're my brothers and sisters. To the women out there, I love you all. You are my proud, brave queens that are out there, allowing men like me to have children and have families, and you take care of us, and the woman today in 2023 is amazing, where they still find the time to come home and take care of their family and cook dinner when they're out working 50, 60, who knows, 70 hours a week in some cases. So, you know, to circle back to what I initially started talking about, I've only got 4 minutes left in this podcast. I'm at 15 minutes and 30 seconds, so 4.5 minutes. Masculinity is not toxic. True masculinity is a beautiful thing. Femininity and strong, successful, independent women, there is nothing wrong with that either. So if you're a real man and you proclaim to be one, then when your wife has success or your girlfriend has success, be happy for her. Don't be threatened by her. And I've always said that in a relationship where two people are clinging on to each other and trying to control each other, the natural instinct for both is to pull away. So if two people are pulling each other toward each other constantly and trying to control, both people are going to be pulling away from the control. And over time, you're growing apart. If you have two people in a relationship, a man and a woman, or whatever the relationship may be, two men, two women, whatever, if you're in that relationship and the two of you respect each other, you have confidence in your relationship, you trust the other person, and you do all the right things and you grow together, then over time, if you're not suffocating each other, you will grow closer over time instead of pulling apart from each other. So when I look at true masculine men, when I look at independent feminine women, whatever you want to call them, and if we can both be true to who we are, then I think we have a real future in this country. And let's face it, we all have political differences. The left, I don't agree with in many, many cases. There are some things that I look at and I do see value in. But when I see the extreme left that's trying to take over our country and turn us into something that we were not intended to be, then I have a problem. We in the United States of America are not a democracy. We are a constitutional republic. That is what the Constitution was designed for us to be. And if you look at the Constitution and if you read the Constitution, which I have, you have to understand that these were not old crazy men that threw this document together 300 years ago and it was irrelevant. It is one of the most amazingly written, forward-thinking documents you could possibly read, where they were trying to anticipate things that they did not understand and didn't even know would happen, but they put verbiage into the Constitution that allowed all of us to prepare for the future. And it is still a very, very relevant document even today. So the Constitution, we are a constitutional republic. We are supposed to be a government for the people, by the people. And we are not that anymore. And the whole point of that is, as a country, men and women, we talked about how masculinity is beautiful. Independent women are beautiful. You shouldn't be threatened if you're a real man. And if you're threatened, you need to really go back to school and understand the correct way to be a man and to accept the woman of your life. So, again, we are meant to be a free country. That's what the United States was intended to be. That's what United States will always be. But we need to be smarter than those who are trying to divide us. We must unite. We must be one people, black versus white, men versus women, religious versus agnostic, whatever it may be, Democrat versus Republican. We need to unite. We need to outsmart the people who are controlling our lives. We have to be smarter than the people who are trying to take away our freedom. And we need to stand up and be proud to be Americans. Because I will tell you, I've traveled the world a little bit, and the United States of America is the shining beacon of light in this world. We are very, very fortunate to be in this country and very fortunate to live in the United States of America, and we must preserve it. You don't want to lose it, because what we have here is amazing, and we have to be willing to stand up to preserve the greatest country in the history of the world. God bless all of you. I hope you enjoyed this podcast, that masculinity is not toxic, and I hope you all tune in for me the next show that I broadcast, and please share my show with a friend. God bless you. I love you all, and thank you for tuning in to the John DeVito Show.